Hello, and thanks for watching or listening to episode 38 of VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. Whether you're watching on YouTube or you're downloading and having a listen on Spotify or iTunes, if you can leave a review, great, because it helps those global giants give us a little bit more of a push. So if you can do that, myself and my co-host John Evans would appreciate it. Are you okay there, John?
I'm very good, Steve, in dull, really Oldham, not like some of us sunning it up in our £1 million properties abroad.
I don't know about that, mate, but it's a lot better here than Oldham, what I'm hearing the weather is in Ashton today. And with us, a man who's not far from you in Bolton. He was a what do you say, more than decent fighter. He's very knowledgeable on boxing. He can talk, and he's doing all right for himself as a trainer in Bolton. It's Alex Matvienko. Alex, thanks for Thanks for affording us some time this evening. And
no, thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
And if people aren't familiar with you, they're still going to learn about you tonight because John will back me up on this. You can talk.
Yeah, I do like talking a little bit. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing.
It's good. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, you've people who might not know Alex, but probably from outside the Northwest, we might have seen you in the odd corner, Alex, but you've lived and breathed it, haven't you? You know, you've been in the gym with all the names, shared the ring with all of them, and like Steve said, building your own name as a trainer, and I believe going into a little bit of co-promoting as well.
Yeah, that's something. Obviously, with some of the stuff that's happening now, with the easing on the lockdown. Yeah, definitely something we want to do now and incorporate it in with our gym and our fighters. Definitely, yeah. Take the plunge.
Brilliant. I didn't know you were going into promoting, but I think you're mad because every small promoter's mad, and there's guys been doing it for years, you know, and obviously people like Steve Wood, Carl Greaves, who we have on the show, you know, they're having have success with fighters, but how long it's taken to get success is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I just like making my life harder than easier. So,
well, if you're going into promoting, you're certainly making it harder. But how we work on this, Alex, because you're new to us, we chat for 3 minutes each subject, and at the end of 3 minutes, John gets very angry. What happens after 3 minutes, John?
Then you get cut off.
He rings a bell and you stop mid-sentence. And I know that's something you're not used to doing. And you'll certainly never stop mid-sentence. I've seen you when people try to stop you. Round one, John, over to you. And you want to chat about something that's happening this weekend?
Yeah, it's the BT show, isn't it? The first BT show for a little while since a break. And I think it's a show where every fighter on the card's got something to prove. You know, we've got Lyndon Arthur's going to head the bill. He didn't capitalise on his victory over Yard because of injury, but Lyndon needs to bring himself back into the forefront of people's mind. You know, I think he's got to prove that he's that level. It wasn't just a one-off, because he will have doubters until he proves it again. Yard's got tons to prove, hasn't he? You know, I thought he fought terribly against Lyndon. He's got to show that he's still explosive. He can still take people out. He's still got that fire inside him. Young Dennis McCann. I think Dennis is a phenomenal talent, a tremendous boxer, but he's just come off the boil a little bit recently. I'd love to see the old Menace back. You know, let's get a highlight reel knockout and get the momentum behind little Dennis back. And then Zach Parker, he's got to prove that the momentum and attention and the hype that he's starting to generate, that he's worthy of it. I think he is. But Zach's, you know, he looked really good on his debut for BT. Now he's got to show that he really is the goods. So I think every fighter on the bill's got something to prove this weekend.
I think the one who's really got it to prove, and it's not good to put pressure on a youngster, is Dennis McCann, because in the last couple of fights, I don't think he's looked that menace. You know, he's changed his style a little bit. You know, he's gone boxing, he's gone defensive. I want to see the man who was a wrecking machine, who's not 6 months ago was being spoken of as a world champion certainty. I don't know, what do you think of the weekend coming up, Alex?
4 good fighters. They're all looking to improve. Obviously, like John said, someone's looking to steal the show. Zach Parker looked good against the American. Devin Alexander's brother, who was obviously experienced. Yardy's brought James Cook, hasn't he? The former British champion and stuff. So they're looking at changing camp. Like you said, McCann was really hyped, and now sort of, you know, he obviously wants to make a statement. And like you say, Lyndon Lyndon really, he boxed very well. Stayed off the ropes. I was surprised how good he was staying off the ropes and keeping Yardy off. But I think there was a hand problem. I mean, I've never asked Pat or anyone or Lyndon, but I think there was a hand problem. And like you said, maybe now they want to show that they can be explosive, not just very good defensively as well. You know, really good offensively as well, because obviously he can punch. So yeah, it's a good build. It's exciting times. Especially Zach Parker, I like him as well. He's a bit of a dark horse.
Yeah, I really like him, and I think John was telling me earlier you were speaking to Frank Warren, weren't you, John? And he's really sold on him, isn't he?
Yeah, he said it's like when your football team signs a free transfer you've never heard of, and all of a sudden, it turns out that they're the star. Frank's high on Zach at the minute. But like I say, when you get a card where they've all got something to prove, they're all against favourite opponents, you might just get something special from one of them.
Round two, Mikey Garcia, and this is something I really wanted to bring Alex in on. He's had a top career with all the world titles he's won, but where should he be? Right now, I think he should. He's 40-1, but I can't help thinking he should already be an all-time great and a first-time Hall of Ballot. He had that row with Top Rank, and that killed him for 2 3/4 years, 2014 to 16. And he's come back and he's won world titles at different weights, but he's more known for the loss to Spence than what he's done since he come back after the split with Top Rank, where he's had the wins over men like Broner and Jesse Vargas, and now it looks like Regis Prograis next. I'm just wondering where his career is and where it's going.
I think people dwell on the negatives instead of the positives in boxing, unfortunately. People look at records when records are for DJs. Look at some of the older fighters. I mean, more recent years, Bernard Hopkins lost his debut and people like that. When people get a loss, everyone seems to write them off, and it's quite... And they forget about the good wins, as you said, the Broners and stuff. And it is a bit of a shame. You feel sorry for fighters. There's a lot of pressure on keeping that awe. And I think even the fighter feels a lot of pressure. And I don't know. I don't like the way that it's become. Like we see fighters get their own. They start getting written off, or they're getting used as a gatekeeper, and it's a bit crazy. As you say, he's a great fighter, lovely to watch. Them Mexican Californian fighters are really good fighters to watch. I used to love a guy called Antonio Diaz, and he had a lovely style. He never won the made world title. He come against Mosley and that, but his style was always really good to watch. And like Garcia, it's a lovely style to watch, and everyone forgets about his skill set. They all seem to just talk about the loss, and everyone seems to forget, like you say, about about his great career that he's had, and he's still capable of having.
Yeah, phenomenal. The point where I think Mikey Garcia could have really cemented himself. Do you remember when he came back and he fought Zlatan Cunningham?
The WBC lightweight, it was brilliant.
Poleaxed him with that right hand, and Zlatan Canningham's a good fighter. And then he just started chasing. He went too far up in weight and started chasing money. If Mikey Garcia could have cemented himself at lightweight, I agree, Steve. I certainly think he's one of the most talented of a modern era, but he's just not had the fights to prove it. He probably is a 140 now, and I love Prograis, and Prograis and Garcia's a surefire hit, isn't it? I just hope Mikey dedicates himself for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight, but again, it's one of those. He should be in fights that the world are watching now. What that is that a high-end, brilliant trade fight that we're excited about. But where do you get a casual? Where do you talk a casual into watching that, John? Round 3. Your first topic, Alex, and you're excited by the Foster Cunningham fight that's coming up next in August.
Well, we've just been talking about losses and draws and a bit of a scattered record. You look at Cunningham and he falls into that category. He's fought some good lads. And same with Foster as well. I think Foster got a draw with Brett Fidor, who's obviously one of the most well-known lads on the circuit at the moment. And so you can't these two guys are getting better. You can't say, they've got as good as they're going to get. These guys are getting better. Cunningham boxed absolutely brilliant. Again, like we mentioned, Lyndon stayed off the ropes with Yardy. I felt like Cunningham did so well staying off the ropes. He was rolling out brilliantly. Your fight couldn't cut the ring down, couldn't hold him down. He boxed absolutely brilliant. Again, similar to Lyndon. stayed off them ropes, rolling out, you know, and hurting your fight, hurting him, coming in and everything else. It's a great fight. Foster's good as well. He's coming up. You know, I think he had, what was his record earlier on in his career? He
was winning. He had that one draw with Brett.
The Brett and sorry, it was Cunningham who had a bit of a
Cunningham,
record as well. Yeah, but they've both progressed. So this has the makings of two guys getting towards, you know, but I think Cunningham's 31 though, is he, or something like that.
Yeah.
What age is Brett?
23.
Watson, 23. So he's obviously, you could see it with the Lucian fight. He's growing into it now. But makings of a good fight. They're the fights that we want to see as fans, definitely.
How well has Brad Foster done to come from kickboxing, win a Lonsdale bout outright, up the part, you know, and he doesn't look like a kickboxer the way he holds himself. He's a boxer, you know.
Big good guys.
And you know, Brad's just converted perfectly. What a start he's had to his career.
He's having like seven title fights in 16 fights, but I don't know if you guys know him. And whenever I talk to him, he's a lovely guy, but I always get the impression boxing's his job. It isn't something he goes home and talks about. It's his job. He's good at it. It is quite fascinating. That's the impression I do get for him. But he's getting better and better. And Cunningham, the performance against Gamal Yafai, this tells you what the fight is. This reminds me of the old 80s fights and the 70s fights we used to have on the Mickey Duff shows on Grandstand on a Wednesday night when there were British and European titles. Proper fight. And I believe the fight's going to take place sometime in August. And that's the sort of fight I'm excited about more than most this year.
Definitely.
It's mad because I'm a bit of a boxing geek, I suppose. And I know you two will be the same.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go, thank God.
Over to you, John.
Yeah, when when this group of welterweights emerged about 5 or 6 years ago, Porter and Spence, and my favourite was Thurman. You know, he's a brilliant interview. He's got great quotes, great lines. He was a tremendous puncher, and he seemed like he was obsessed on glory, Keith. The other thing people who listen to this regularly might have clicked on, but one thing I like in a fighter, I like spite and I like coldness. I like fighters who can switch that on. And I don't think there's a more spiteful and cold fighter than Terence Crawford. Terence, again, another fighter who seemed like he was that on glory. All he wanted to do was fight. And if you told me 2 or 3 years ago that these two guys would have just let their careers almost peter out, I wouldn't have believed you. Thurman was talking the other day saying he'd never heard of Jaron Ennis. He don't want to fight Virgil Ortiz. I believe Crawford's not fighting until October. So the perfect solution here is these two missing men of a welterweight division. Get them together. Let's find out that Crawford and Thurman's a good fight. Get them both back active again. If Thurman don't want to do it, he may as well pack it in. And if Crawford don't want to fight a guy like Thurman, I don't know what he's doing in the sport. Let's get Crawford against Thurman for a real crowd pleaser.
I'm all for that fight, 100%, John. But you know what I think the problem is with Thurman, and I did know this from the top of my head. I'm not one of these who tell you I knew it. I checked this out when you told me you wanted to speak about it today. Since how many years now? I think it's something like, I wrote this down. 2 years this month since Pacman, and since the Danny Garcia win in March 2017. His only other fight was Osito Lopez. There's something like, you know, that is ridiculous inactivity. But in the 3 years prior to Garcia, he fought Collazo, Guerrero, Bundo, Julio Diaz. Now, it was all money fights because that was the early days of PBC when all the money was slushing around. So I won't mind betting he amassed all his money then. And he might be seeing what the market is now and thinking, I'm bigger than this. Alex?
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think he's lost a little bit of fire in his belly. And like you said, the inactivity doesn't help. I was looking at Razor Ruddock today at his record, and I'd seen like he'd been very inactive after the Lewis fight. He had one fight, I think, and then went in with Tommy Morrison about 3 years later, 2 years before that from the Lewis, you know, and it's no good, the inactivity. I'm not sure what his reasons were, but I do feel like Thurman's more because of, I feel like he's lost a little bit of hunger. I put my money on Crawford, to be honest. I do. And I do feel sorry for Crawford because I feel like he's got a little bit more fire in his belly at the moment.
Yeah, I just can't believe he's been sat on the shelf. I honestly think with Crawford, one of the greatest fighters of the last 25 years has just been allowed to go to waste, to be honest.
Yeah, round 5, my final topic, plastic or proper, and this is something, again, Alex, I was thinking of Alex when I come up with this topic. IBF, WBO European titles, these sort of silver internationals, whatever you call them now. Jack Messi was already high-end European class, but he won the IBF version of the European crown this weekend against Engin Karacarslan. It does nothing for him, that fight. It gives him a belt. It's not a major title. What does he get from beating a guy I don't think it's won since 2015? It gets him a world ranking, but it's all about just sanction fees, these IBF titles, IBF and WBO European titles. You know, a journalist the other day said, I'm interviewing Jack. Oh, this isn't a knock at Jack. He's a terrific fighter, and he could even fight for a world title. He's heavy-handed, a handful. Journalist said, when he's the European champion, I'm going to interview him. And you're not European champion by winning these IBF and WBO belts. And it's no slant on the fighters. You know, Jack's, getting close to world class. You know, other guys like Bradley Skeet held them. It doesn't, they're just not major belts. And it's really being a gripe with me. Now, maybe that's because myself and Alex were talking before we started the pod. I'm a bit more old school, but it really is a gripe to me.
I think a lot of it is the selling point for the tickets, the fans. It's quite hard, these small old shows. And I agree with you. I'd love to see the central area, the British, the Commonwealth, the European, that route. With the politics and the money involved and trying to sell a ticket, as you say, these people look at this IBF belt. To them, it's an IBF world title or a European champion, when really us guys who do understand more about the boxing, we understand that it's more of a, it gets them in the ranking, it's more of a title, but it is a selling point. So there's your pros and cons. For us diehard fans, we're more, do it the old school way. For the new guys, it's, like, my mate's a European champion, so there's pros and cons. I understand, but I understand from the business sense as well. I do understand.
The European title for me is a blue ribbon with a gold buckle on it. That's the European title for me.
Yeah, completely.
The people who make these WBO European belts don't even look like they give a shit about them. We're all wrinkled, aren't we? They look the cheapest belt in the shop. But no, I agree with you both. It is what it is, isn't it? They sell these fights as European title fights to sell tickets. The fighters know they're not a European champion. Yeah,
you know what? I think, I feel quite strongly, but I do take Alex's point of view. And when you're promoting, Alex, if you get the chance to promote one of these, because it helps sell your show, now you're becoming a promoter and losing every penny you've got. Why not? Yeah. Final round, Alex, something you are involved in all the time. A lot of your fighters starting them. Small hall boxing's back in September. Take us away.
Brilliant. Small hall's excellent. We all know Steve Wood personally and what he does for small hall, for the area, for the fighters. Boxing wouldn't be where it was without small hall. We've seen some great fights in the Northwest. Paul Drago, Lewis Cuddy, Martin Granger, fought Mike Stafford, Wayne Adiene, Cal Dilts, all promoted by Steve. Some great small hall. It's the best thing for boxing. It's for the diehard fans, for the upcoming fighters. It's for everyone.
Yeah. We're back in September, aren't we? Steve's got 5 shows lined up in September, and the first one is a title fight with Nathan Bennett and Kane Gardner.
Yeah, saw that. Yeah.
That's the type of fights and stuff that we've been missing.
Yeah, that's a tremendous. I mean, the biggest problem I think is going to be is, and I'm sure Alex appreciate this as much as anyone. So I'm sure he's got a lot of kids going to be out, or a few kids going to be out September, October. Is matching these kids. There's not going to be enough to go around, not enough opponents to go around. You're going to be getting, playing some Riga and Lithuania coming in, I think, every week to Manchester full of these fighters, because there's just no one. There's not going to be enough journeymen around, because all the big shows as well. Steve Goldwyn's going to be non-stop. Kevin Marie's putting shows on. You know, there'll be other Fight Zone shows over in Sheffield. It's going to be absolutely chaos. But you know what? It's brilliant because it means there's boxing back every week, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Keeps the fighters active, keeps everyone happy. You know, Steve Woods' shows are brilliant, aren't they? They are brilliant. It's good to get all the lads together. You know, it's good to see everyone have a crack. I love the small hole. I've been on the big ones. I've been on the small hole, and I love the small hole.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, he's going to do well out. I tell you, he's going to do well out of this for journeyman. I believe someone got one opponent got $3,000 for a 4-rounder.
Whoa! Really?
Journeyman.
I tell you what, if a journeyman got $3,000 for a 4-rounder at the weekend, he is my hero of the week. It's absolutely made my day. That's the sort of stuff I want to hear that every week. Journeyman copping $3,000 for doing 4 rounds, and I bet that
deserve it.
Obviously, you can't name him. I bet he got through his fight easily as well.
Yeah. They deserve it. The hardest workers in the sport, aren't they? Up and down the country, work hard.
Yeah, they absolutely deserve it more than most. And look, it's just great, announced today in England, Britain, that in England certainly lockdown, that everything's going to be back to normal. And I think we just got to get as many of these small shows in, because who knows where we're going to be later in the winter again. And I just hope the fans, you appreciate money's tight, that the fans that do come out and support these shows and buy tickets, because I know some small halls are having problems with venues insisting tickets are bought online. It'd be a pain.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think people are itching to get out. That's what we're all hoping, aren't they? People are itching to socialise, get out, have a drink. And if they are, the atmosphere will be great again.
Well, we'll talk about that very quickly. We've got a minute left, haven't we? Have you heard this, Alex, about venues insisting on not paper tickets? You've got to download an app and scan a barcode. Now, that's a potential major problem, that, for small hall, because it's built on people selling tickets in pubs to the mates.
No, I never knew.
Insisting on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of one small hall show in September. In case I've heard wrong, so I don't want to name who it is. He's scrapped his show because it wasn't an app, but all sales are online through the venue. And I think I don't know if it's causing any problems, but I know the Joe Joyce show, Wembley, in a couple of weeks, you've got to download an app. You have got to get a ticket. Fighters can't sell paper tickets. So you've got that. But I think Steve Wood was lucky for his shows. He's allowed to sell paper tickets as long as he prints them himself, not the venue. So, there is going to be some chaos, but I think there's got to be a little bit of leeway. Boxing's a sport that's run differently like no other. Football fans are used to buying online. Rugby fans, cricket fans, boxers are used to getting money off their mates who are in the pub on a Friday night when they've been paid and handing over the ticket. It's run like no other sport, and people have got to understand that a bit. These venues do have to appreciate that, because that's affecting punters coming in their venues and spending money at the bar.
That's how you sell your ticket. You socialise with the fans. You knock on, you go in and have a brew. You drop 5 tickets off for him and his pals. That's just how we've always done it.
Yeah.
They have to take things into account. That's how fighters do it.
Imagine you in your day going. Sorry.
I was going to say the same thing. How many tickets did you knock out in Icon in Bolton on a Friday night, Alex?
Yeah, you've got that. That's how we do it. You can't have the biscuits, but you can have a brew with no sugar. And you've got to see, that's how you see your friends and you socialise. It's crazy the way it's going, but they need to be understanding and looking into a bit of detail that this is the business, this is how it's running. They've got to be understanding, and they need these venues. They do need the clientele. They do need Steve Wood at the Reebok and stuff. They really are screaming out, because hospitality's lost out big time. So they need to bend over backwards a little bit, and be a bit more understanding.
Yeah, I can imagine you, Alex, when you were selling tickets, going into some club in Bolton, 11 o'clock on a Friday night, when everyone's absolutely lagging, and writing down a website address, www.ticketmaster.co.uk, but / Alex Matvienko, and you'll get to buy a ticket. Yeah, that's going straight in the bin. That bit of paper was used to write some girl's number on, I should think, by the lads.
Yeah,
Alex, you've been a brilliant guest this week. You have plenty to say.
you.
You're a good talker. John,
Thank you.
great we've seeing you again, even though I'm not next door to you as I usually am, mate, in Ashton. But I'm in pastures new for now. I'll speak to you next week, John. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. And thank you, Alex, again. You're a top
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Been great seeing you both. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.